Greetings and salutations everyone, this is of course your favorite Shogun here, Sugi, and today I'm gonna be reviewing the newly released Season 2 of Baki Hanma, which just got dropped on Netflix worldwide. Now, I previously reviewed Season 1 as well on the channel, so in case you haven't seen that one, I'm gonna link it in the corner. Now, Season 2 consists of 13 episodes, and it basically covers out the Pickle War Saga, which is the third last manga arc, which makes me believe that maybe on the next 13 episodes we might see a whole conclusion to this Baki series, or they can stretch it out to another 26 basically, which is also a possibility. I'm not really sure how stretched out the last two arcs out in terms of their fights, because even though there might be a lot of chapters in them, fights are always condensed very much when it comes to like manga to anime translation. Now, there isn't really that much to talk about regarding this season, because I'm not like a color caster to talk about these fights in intricate details as they're going by. It's a bunch of characters that we are familiar with from the previous arcs, which are going to be fighting out this guy named Pickle, who is basically a human, which was kind of already like shown in the last episode of the last season, and he was like in frozen ice alongside with this Tyrannosaurus, and now basically they melted the ice and put him back into this sort of a weird water machine. I don't know what exactly it's called, and now he's back alive after like millions of years, and he's like super strong, super masculine. He's not able to talk. I mean, he's some type of like a proto homo sapiens. I mean, they call him a human, so yeah, he's probably a homo sapiens. And basically he's there to fight out with a lot of the characters in the series, including Baki, which is obviously the final fight. And these characters basically are ones that we have seen in the previous arc, so we're going to be seeing a lot of familiar faces making cameos. And the weird thing is, we don't see actually any point Baki's girlfriend in this season, which is kind of interesting. Like, you would expect that there would be some type of a, I don't know, even a picture or something about her, but I guess she's not really that major character. I mean, women really aren't major characters in this Baki series. It's a very male, eccentric, style of a show. Now, as I already said, like, I'm not going to be doing some type of a weird color casting on these fights. I think they were well done. Some were shorter than others, and there were some really cool and interesting scenes. I wouldn't say that they were like the best fights in the franchise. I don't remember the Dead 5, the prison cell, whatever arc that is called. I think that one had like the best fights altogether, and I'm not saying the fights in this one were underwhelming or anything. I'm just saying that they were not as good, okay? But there were some good moments in this season, and yeah, the animation was up to par. Remember, like, when we got the first season, actually there was a lot of CGI and 3D used, and now it's like almost like 100% actual 2D, or there's a bit of 2.5D there. And I mean, there's some objects like the cars and things like that which are usually done in 3D animation, but that's basically it. Now, there are a couple of controversies which have around from this season, especially the rape scene. I guess this is kind of like right up my alley to talk about all of these controversial things in anime in general. And the thing is, upon rewatching the scene, like, and obviously, like, you have to understand the context of like Pickle, or even like Homo sapiens, like, in the Inception, there was no fucking laws. Like, this was an anarchistic world, and you saw pussy on the street, and you would grab them by the pussy, basically. And that's what happened. So that's exactly what happens in this context when this girl comes in next to Pickle, and she gets raped on the spot. Nobody's trying to actually, well, the cops are, or the soldiers are trying to prevent him from raping this thing, but they can't do anything, okay? And the thing is, the interviewer, this woman, she was in OnlyFans clothing. Why wasn't she wearing burqa or hijab or some type of more classic clothing which wouldn't like make Pickle have these sexual urges? I mean, that necessarily wouldn't have changed things, but this is like a kind of a social commentary of the modern day world. It's like, no wonder these women are getting raped because they are hanging around without male protection. They're hanging around without like proper clothing, conservative clothing. So you're kind of asking for it at some point when you have to really beg the question. But I'm not saying that rape is okay or anything. I'm just like making this observation here that you are basically instigating behavior which is leading more likely into that outcome. But this was like not even like very graphic. I don't didn't see that many of the manga panels, but for the most part it looked like they really cut out a lot of these scenes, and it's not even very super clear that the rape kind of happened even. Like, well, it kind of is, but you know what I'm trying to say is that they kind of like to hide to cover this thing, and they probably, maybe Netflix told them like, no, you can't do this or whatever, like you have to cut out this vulgar stuff about it. But it's kind of nice that there's other aspects about the series which are kind of edgy, and this is kind of like, and maybe there's will be like a sequel series where the child of Pickle will come out and will be the next hero of the world or whatever. I don't know if the woman actually took abortion or did Pickle wear a condom. Probably didn't wear a condom. I mean, they censored his cock, which was massive. I guess that's where they come up with the name Pickle. I don't know. It's a really weird name, but whatever. But overall, I mean, maybe it's a reference to Dragon Ball because the Saiyans always had like these vegetable names. Maybe there's some type of homage there. Now, in terms of the OST, it not really much to say there. Like after like listening this series for 3-4 seasons, I'm starting to remember some of the tracks in it. I wasn't really big fan of the OP or the ED, and this seems to be like a really big of a thing with Netflix, is that the opening animations and the ending animations are not art forms for Netflix. You have literal skip buttons, and you can look at every single anime original by Netflix that they owe, and they have always like very low budget intros, like really low budget, like not really a lot of effort on them. And maybe that's coming from the relationship that the Japanese studios have no respect for Netflix whatsoever, or they're just like paid out so lowly that they're not going to be putting even an effort into that intro, which is going to be even skipped out anyways. So yeah, I can't remember top of my head of any of these originals which actually have like a very high end intro altogether. And somebody is going to be saying something on the comments, but then they realize like, oh, this was actually not a Netflix exclusive or something like that. But whatever. I think it was a good season. But was it really like, obviously I can't talk about this because I haven't really read too much into like the next arc or the arc after that. I know the outcome of the ending of the series, and I read a bit about the last arc, but was this really necessary in terms of like the building of Baki as a character or any of the other characters? Or the other characters maybe get even more character development because they lose literal body parts in this season, which is kind of weird that they haven't done that in the previous things. Like, and it's funny, like none of the people really die in this series. Like honestly, like all these fighters, like none of them actually fucking die, even though like they get busted up like really really badly, but nobody is like dying, which is a problem. Like you would expect that there would be a bit of stakes here, like you could actually die and things like that. But I remember on these Netflix seasons especially, I know that in the Bucky the Grappler series, the one that's not on Netflix, there was a couple of deaths in there, like Bucky's mother and some other things. But I don't remember like anybody actually dying, like significant character, not some side ass thing, you know, like when the prisoners escaped, they killed guards obviously, but like was there like a significant character which had a voice actors and everything that fucking died in this series? Like that's kind of weird. But as I was saying, like it's Baki really didn't benefit from this season a lot. It gets stronger, yet etc. and all this image training shit again. I think it's very dumb. It's kind of dumb, but this is kind of what the series is about. It makes these like ridiculous types of things, and it's kind of part of its charm, you know. And I mean, I don't mind it too much. I'm just saying that this is how you get strong. You like imagine fighting yourself or some shit. Like that's just like the most dumbest fucking shit I've heard. But whatever. But overall, I mean, it was an enjoyable season. Not as good as last one. The Biscuit Oliver season, I mean, Mr. Unchained, was it really? I mean, that wasn't even that good. But I think this is probably on the same level with that one, probably. I mean, that one actually had like a good fight or two, and there was some other elements which made the season interesting. Maybe had a bit more comedy in it. But that's probably kind of more about Biscuit Oliver's character. But I just fundamentally like think that in grand scheme of things, they just really have a lot of part to play in the grand story. I don't actually know if Pickle is going to be reappearing on the next arc or the arc after that. If he does in a significant way, then we could argue that this arc was meaningful in the whole holistically. But otherwise, I wouldn't say so. So yeah, I think, and this is kind of what I feel about this series. Like, does there has to be this many arcs and build up for basically maybe they want to milk the series in terms of the manga, like selling it out and blah blah blah. But I don't honestly know. Sometimes I don't like this sort of a capitalistic view into these shows and series, in the sense that you should always have a kind of rough idea what is the ending of your show before you kind of start building it, and then it's like set on stone in the very beginning. And yeah, you can stretch it out a bit or squash it out a bit from, you can bit like flex on the initial plan, but you should have like initial plan, like this is gonna run 5 arcs and this is what's gonna happen in the beginning, in the middle, and then in the end. But in terms of Baki, I think there are a lot of arcs, but hey, it's good fights and stuff like that. You can enjoy it, and I understand it. But I'm not going to blab any longer. Subscribe to the channel, guys, if you want to see more stuff. And once again, I'm watching a lot of things, and there's always these big gaps on the channel between these reviews. Usually they come out in like clusters. But I'm really working on a lot of anime, so stay tuned for that. And obviously check out putachi.net for more articles and reviews that have not been